Chris Inman is here today.
Hey Matt, how's things?
Good man, how you doing? What's been going on? Haven't talked to you in a long time.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's been maybe evolved last time we talked. A couple times actually here and there, but yeah, no, I just been working away. I recently got a new cat, so he's been keeping me entertained, but other than that, just
How,
trying to stay on the straight and narrow.
how old is the cat?
He's two. His name's Oreo. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
yeah, he's the most affectionate cat I've ever met. He'll sleep on me pretty much anytime I'm watching TV or anything like that. And he's a bit needy sometimes, but he's over there watching me right now, but telling me not to say too much about him.
Yeah. Keep it on the down low, bro.
Yeah.
Tell people their business. um, so you reached out, you wanted to come on, and thankful for that.
Thanks for having
Um,
me.
did you want to jump right into your story wherever you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Like, and I think with my story, I've watched a lot of your content, and some people it seems that it's kind of one particular topic. Whereas mine, I find like I've got a few different things that kind of, all tie together a little bit when it comes to mental health and kind of, learning how to deal with my mental health and keep myself healthy. So I guess I'll start by like when I was growing up. I had a speech impediment till about grade 9, I think is when I went to see a speech therapist. And with that, I was bullied a lot through school. I think it was partially, I was very outgoing. Like I loved making people laugh, stuff like that. But I had the speech impediment, and I was a bit heavier. And I found not only just through kind of self-confidence issues, but again, everybody's struggling in junior high, high school. So, people, if they're having a bad day, they kind of let it out on you a little bit because they don't quite know yet. Um,
Right.
so I just remember being bullied pretty bad, not only by students but by teachers. I remember one time we had a substitute teacher, and my name has an R in it, so it was kind of cruel to give me a speech impediment that I couldn't say R. So
Yeah.
because my name has an R. So I remember just doing him asking my name, and I said it as best I could, and he got me to repeat it again, and I said it as best I could, and he got me to repeat it again and again and again and again. And I just remember feeling so alone at that point, kind of being singled out. He didn't have to do that, and he should have known better. But stuff like that was rough, I found. I also remember, I think it was grade 9, maybe grade 10. I was catfished. So uh, two people, girls, they made a number of fake Facebook accounts and kind of led me on. And at that age, I hadn't really had a girlfriend, and anything of the idea was definitely exciting to me. So I was led on a bit. And now looking back, like now being older and being more experienced with social media, I feel like I obviously would know better now. But then I was naive, and I definitely didn't know better. So I just remember being led on, and there'd be another Facebook account pop up that kind of affirmed the other one, because they'd hop on the other one and message me and be like, all just a lot of it went on for a few weeks, like weeks and weeks, maybe even months. So much so that I remember, like, asking them to hang out and going and I think I told my parents that I was going to hang out with some people, and they were like, "Who are you going to hang out with?" And I was like, "Oh, so and so and so and so." And they were like, "Who are they?" And they're like, and I was kind of, I was just like, "Well, they're someone I met online." And they were like, "I don't know if that's the best idea." And I think I was pretty frustrated because, again, at the time I was almost confident that they were real, because they were really good at using pictures by the same person and making the story seem really, really legit. So anyways, when word broke out about that and people found out, I remember just being kind of bullied quite a bit about that. Like, "Oh, you're going to hang out with your fake girlfriend, this and this and this." And I just remember it getting to me. It definitely caused me a lot of trust issues with the internet. got my guard up in a healthy way, I think, because you always check twice and be smart about things. But it definitely, yeah, it definitely had a residual impact on me that looking back, I wish I knew better, but I didn't. And, you kind of just learn from stuff like that.
It's crazy. I think that, I mean, it's just kids, right? And they don't really know what they're doing, but it's crazy to think that someone go through all that trouble to like make the fake account and go through with it for weeks or even months, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And I've learned as I've gotten older to kind of forgive. Like I don't hold any grudges towards anybody who bullied me through school or anything like that, because at that age, like I can look back now and think of the people that were doing that, and I can really see that they were hurting. And to do that and treat someone poorly, like especially at that age, you have to be hurting. Nobody just is cruel by nature. It's kind of just you don't know how to handle your own issues, so you put it onto somebody else. And
Yeah, no one's happy and then goes and picks on someone else.
yeah, exactly. Um, and so, you know, growing up, I kind of dealt with that, and then high school came, and then I started using a lot of weed, like smoking a lot of weed. Um, I'd, hang out with friends, and in the morning I'd, get baked, and then lunch break, me and the boys get together and do the same thing. And then after school, it was the first thing I did after school. And then in the evening, get together with friends or play video games and continue on through the evening. And the first number of years, like it was fine. It was just, messing around, like being silly, having fun. But then I think it was a year ago in September that I quit. Um, and I had a really, really hard time quitting. I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship. I was treated pretty poorly by the girl that I was with, and manipulated, and physically and mentally abused. Like I remember driving down the street and we were in an argument, and then all of a sudden start getting punched in the face, knocked my glasses off, almost crashed the car. That happened twice. Um, but through that relationship, I started using cannabis a lot, a lot, a lot, and using it for the wrong reasons, not just to have fun and enjoy it, but I think cover up the issues I was having. Because in that relationship, everything was my fault. If I went out, I'd get a phone call just being screamed at about this or this or this. And it was, and again, kind of with that, like, I think that was my first like long-term serious relationship, and I didn't know any better. Um, but now again, I do, and you learn from that. But so I used cannabis a lot then, and when that relationship ended, I was in a pretty rough spot, because I've learned in an abusive relationship, the person that's abusing you teaches you to devalue yourself, not like clearly, but over their actions and time, and you kind of submitting to what they're doing to you, you're devaluing yourself and you're not valuing and standing up for yourself. Um, so I was in a really tough place, and I'd wake up in the morning and smoke as much weed as I could, just pass back out and go back to sleep. And as soon as I woke back up, same thing, just go back to sleep and sleep and sleep. And I was getting to a point where I had no control, and I was losing it. Like absolutely, I was just like, this is beyond my control. Like you've tried, you're not getting anywhere. You're only getting worse. So I one day I just was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm going into the hospital or something bad's gonna happen. So I went into the hospital and went and sat in the ER and got talked to by a mental health crisis nurse. And she was like, it's going to take probably 2 days for us to get you into Unit 9. But I can call over to Mount Herbert, the addiction center, and see if we can get you in there. She said, honestly, like, there's no doubt you're dealing with trauma and different mental health issues, but I think for us to deal with any of that, we should go and deal with your addiction first. So I was like, you know what, that's a good idea. Like I'll go over and try it. And I was nervous as hell, nervous as absolute hell, to tell my parents, to tell my friends. um, but I went, and it was really, really hard. um, People think that it's non-addictive, but I was definitely psychologically and physically addicted. Like I was getting sick in the mornings and I couldn't eat and I was sweating. Maybe not to the severity that someone coming off, certain harder drugs would, but it was definitely there. And anyways, I did my time in there and came out and I was absolutely refreshed. It was one of the best things I ever chose to do.
So, so you guys had already broken up at this point, right? And this was after the fact.
Yeah, this was probably a month and a half after.
And so, what is it like when you first go into the addiction center?
Um, so when you go in, um, like I had called and they were expecting me, so I went in and I wasn't quite sure what to bring, and so I brought clothes and you know that type of stuff. I don't think I remembered to bring a toothbrush and toothpaste, but they have all the essentials that you need there. Um, but I waited there, and then a nurse kind of brought me down the hallway, and I was really worked up, and I think a lot of people that go are, because it's kind of that peak moment of I'm taking action on this, and it's hard. Like I was pretty emotional, um, but I knew it was something I had to do, and so the nurse took me into a room and they asked kind of like a lot of just medical questions, a lot of like your history, like how long you've been using, um, what you've been using, what other things you've tried or used, and that type of thing. And then basically you're just put on the unit, and there's, you can read books, you can watch TV. Um, there's like snacks you can eat and stuff. They actually had a guitar that I pulled out a couple times and played it a bit. But I remember just like I was restless because I'm a pretty scatterbrained guy, and I remember just sitting there and trying to watch TV, and when I was using cannabis, like it would kind of settle a lot of that and I'd be a little bit more relaxed, but I just couldn't relax, and I was like, what the hell am I going to do in here? So I had this stress ball. It was like a kind of one that you squeeze with your hand, and I just started walking up and down the hallway, bouncing it, and I'd bounce it off the wall and catch it with this hand, and you know, try and bounce it off my chest and catch it. And I just walked and walked and walked. And I must have paced. The hallway was probably 100 meters long. So I probably paced that like I'd pace that thing like 100 times a day at least. And like the nurses, I'd just like, they'd be sitting in their station and they're probably just like, well, there he goes again. And after the second or third day, I kind of started getting my personality back and stuff. And I'd go up to the nurse station and I'd be like, you guys want to hear a joke? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And I'd be like, I used to be bald. I still carry a comb, but I can't part with it.
Oh my
Um,
God.
so just stuff like that. And I remember, like I said, like getting out and just being absolutely refreshed and feeling like I had my life back and feeling like I was back on track. So that lasted for a good long while. Um, and then I think it was right around, like I had still dabbled with other substances here and there, um, go to parties and stuff like that and drink and other things. And
So
I
just not to
yeah.
back you up, but so how long did you spend in there, and then did you go anywhere else after?
So I did 5 days and they wanted to keep 4 or 5 days. Um, and it's voluntary. So I remember after the fourth or fifth day, kind of just like chomping at the gates. Like I was like ready to go. I was like, you know what? I just got to get out of here. Like I've gone as far as I need to. Like I just need to get out, go home, clean my room, see my family, see my friends, and start this new life that I'm ready to start. And they had recommended, they were like, we think you should stay a day or two more. But I was like, no, like my baby cousin just came to the island. Like I want to go meet him. Like it was ready for me to go. I was ready to go. And I was, when I left, I was completely ready to go. And I didn't use again. I haven't used cannabis since. Um, and there are times where I think about it and I'm like, oh, it'd be fun for this occasion or this occasion, or it'd be fun to go buy an edible at the weed store or something like that. But I kind of just, I'm at a point now where the risk isn't worth the reward. Um, I
Right.
think it's best just for me to, you know, right now I'm completely sober. I was in a bit of a bad rut, probably up to about 4 or 5 days ago. I had kind of hit a peak, and I, I was just in a real bad rut. And so basically, kind of, I'll get to that, but so I was off weed for about a year. I had still used other things the odd time, and I drank, and I uh I remember when lockdown happened, like COVID lockdown. It was actually one, the addiction center was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but going through that lockdown was definitely one of the hardest things I've also done. I am an extrovert, and I realized that big time because whenever I'm, low, I go and see people and it recharges me. Socializing gets me back on track, gets me where I want to be. And when I was locked, in my house, couldn't go anywhere, I just remember like I was having the hardest time. You'd wake up each day, and I just, I was at a point where I didn't have the initiative to really do much. Um, and then I started drinking to kind of deal with that, to try and keep my mind active, I guess, to try and just, you know, do something, which wasn't the best decision. Um, and then, using other substances kind of here and there. And then got through lockdown and came out of lockdown, and it was nice. It was nice to be able to see people again. It was healing. Um, it
So do you
was,
live on your own? You lived on your own throughout the whole thing?
I lived with my parents at that point, but now I live on my own. But, and then it was probably, a month or two after lockdown, I got back into drinking a lot and, using other drugs. And then it became more frequent. Um, and the decision making became a lot worse and clouded. Um, like it would almost be Jekyll and Hyde. Like when I was sober, it was like all good things. It was like, all right, let's get on this exercise plan. Let's start our diet good. Let's, have healthy relationships. Let's, see family, see friends. And then, I'd be sitting and it'd be the evening and I'd be doing whatever. And then there'd be this almost urge where I'd be like, I want to do this to kind of satisfy that addiction. Like I want to, go buy this and do it. Um, and so, I got into doing that, and the next day you wake up and you're like, well, you're up till 5 or 6, and the next day you wake up and you're just like, what the hell am I doing? And you're so depressed and you're so anxious because of what you did. And it was a vicious cycle that was happening. Um, I'd wake up that next morning and I'd be like, you're done. Like, you got to stop. Like, this isn't what you want to be doing. Smarten up. And then it'd be a good 2, 3 days. And then that urge would come back and I'd slip right back into it. And then same thing, you wake up the next day, what the hell am I doing? You look at your bank account, like, what am I doing? And then 2, 3, 4 days later, slip into it again. So that was going on probably for, I mean, there were periods of where it was better and periods of where it was worse, but I think 5 days ago was when I was like I really put the boot in it. It was like when I quit cannabis, I was like I knew I was done, and at this point, like I know I'm done. I'd like to maybe get to a point where I could have like social drinks and stuff like that, but I think I would be silly to think that's going to be anytime soon. I really gotta just keep on the straight path, and even when you think it's gonna, oh, I can do this, it's probably better to wait and wait and wait and just kind of wait it out.
Right.
So straight and narrow right now, hoping to keep on this path, and having the cat and keeping healthy habits is really good. Like I've been cooking more instead of eating out. Just hanging out with the cat, playing Xbox, playing guitar, singing, and keeping up on like for a while there, like my house was a mess. my dishes would pile up, laundry would pile up, and that's normal, but it was excessive. Like I remember there was a point where I had dishes in the sink for like 2 weeks, just hadn't touched them. They just kept piling up. And so now,
Right.
I'm making sure that I discipline myself to be like, you know what, you're not going to want to do it tomorrow, so you might as well do it now. Get it out of the way, and you're going to feel a lot better. So keeping those healthy habits has been really good, even these past few days, um, to keep me, you know, where I should be.
Right. No, I think that's super important. Like finding healthy habits to do every day to keep you, to keep anybody um, mentally healthy. I think we all need um, to kind of check off our boxes on a daily basis, what we need to do to be healthy mentally. Um, so this is very recent for you. Is there any plans? Do you have plans for seeking outside help with this moving forward?
Yeah. So whenever I got out of the addiction center, I saw a counselor, and that was really good. And through these past few months, when I was at that period of you're done, you got to stop this, I'd have the urge to reach out to that person. And I haven't had a chance the last couple of days. I've just kind of been vegging out, enjoying my couch and stuff like that. But I do plan I was planning this week to hopefully reach out and just set something up. Because that was what I found was almost the most helpful, was those checkpoints of, in a month I'm going to see the counselor. So
What
every
am I
day
going to tell them?
what's that, sorry?
What am I going to tell them?
Exactly. And I want to be the person I want to be when I go to see them, because seeing a counselor is kind of like looking in a mirror almost. Like you speaking to them kind of reflects yourself, because you don't always see it so clearly when it's in your own head, but when you vocalize it and you're asked the questions about it, um, it paints a clearer picture. So yeah, it was always a
Yeah,
good checkpoint of like, I want to be my best. I want to be proud of myself. I want him to see, or her to see that I am proud of myself, and I want them to be proud of me. And even if people around me don't know what I'm going through, I want them to know, or I want to be proud of myself for them, because you're at your best when you're proud of yourself.
100%. Think what you think of yourself is the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like self-esteem, self-confidence. To go on a bit of a tangent.
Self-compassion.
Yeah, exactly. Self-compassion. I think there's a balance between self-compassion and being easy on yourself. Because when you're easy
Yeah,
on yourself, you're kind of taking shortcuts. But self-compassion and empathy is kind of understanding why you are where you are and not being too hard on yourself, but still being disciplined.
exactly. Yeah, I think it's usually so far the other way where it's like you're just shitting on yourself
Yeah,
that if you just have the self-compassion of like of your friend, like if you had a best friend or a friend or even a family member, like what advice would you give to them and how compassionate would you be?
the
And that doesn't
best.
mean that you don't hold them to standards, but that just means that like you're compassionate when X, Y, and Z doesn't happen and they want it to happen. And you
Yeah,
be encouraging to them and say, like, try again, you know?
yeah. And it's kind of similar to that. One of the best things I was ever taught was actually from that counselor. And she told me to treat yourself like you would imagine yourself in 10 years would treat you now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, because if you think of yourself 10 years ago, you're very compassionate with that person that you were. Like me looking
yeah,
back on the decisions I made when I was younger, I was compassionate. I was still like, smarten up and be smart, or you're still thinking that way, but you're compassionate and you're understanding.
yeah, yeah,
To
100%.
to tie on to a point that we were talking about with self-confidence, working at Moore's, like a big part of my job is to help men be comfortable and confident in themselves and how they look. Not only mentally, or not only like with clothing, but like mentally. Like we have guys come in and they're like, where's the fat size? And it's like, man, like that's not the healthy way to do things. Like, let me show you how to love yourself and love the way you look. Everybody's different sizes, everybody's shaped differently, but everybody can look awesome and everybody can feel good about the way they look. And, the big thing I think too in society, like, I think women have a lot of beauty standards to live up to, but I think men have a lot of standards that aren't quite recognized as much. Um, like, I have a lot of guys come in and, their whole life, like, they've never been, the way they feel about themselves was never valued. It was never seen as important. They were just, a person, not devalued, but like there was never this kind of kick in the pants of like, you got to value yourself and you got to care about who you are and like who you are. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I try, and every time I have a customer at work is try and bring that in and be like, listen, man, like, you look awesome, like, period. Like, and you should see that in yourself.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, man. I think that's really great that you're doing that because, from what we know about the suicide numbers, it's the majority of it is men, right? I think I'll have to look up the number. I think
Yeah,
it's
I
between
think it's
70 or
like,
80%.
yeah, it's a high percentage. And I think men's mental health is, I don't think mental health as a whole, because it's kind of an umbrella term, but like, men definitely deal with different struggles than women with mental health. Not saying one deals with more or the other, but there's just different struggles. And I think men's mental health, in as a man, um, I like to investigate it as best I can, and kind of learn from my own struggles and try and share that. And I think men don't talk about their emotions as much. Um, but I think it's really important. Like, I know with a few of my friends, like, I can just tell them, and it's a really healthy relationship. I had a really bad day today. Like, I think I'm just going to stay home, or I had a really bad day today. I'm not super excited, so, but I'd still like to hang out, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Or even talk about how, you know, you may have been hurt or something that has gone wrong that's hurting you. Um,
Yeah.
I think men are taught to be tough and nothing's supposed to phase you, but I think talking about what's hurt you definitely is a strengthening thing.
Yeah. I think it comes down to like lack of connection and lack of support. Like I think, like you said, like men oftentimes don't share what they're feeling.
Mhm.
They bottle it up and then they don't feel that connection or that support from each other. And whether that's like the way society is set up or the way that things turned out, but that's um I think that's what's unfolded.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it's important that, it's now it's drilled in a bit more of like, you know, anybody has to be open about their emotions and stuff like that. But I think there's still this underlying thing that I know myself and most men have that kind of holds that back. But it's really important, I think, for men and women to recognize what might be holding them back from truly investigating why their mental health is where it's at and what possibly could fix it.
Well, I think that men gravitate towards responsibility and resilience and strength.
Hmm.
These are the characteristics that they gravitate towards. And like however it came about, like that's seen weak. It's seen as weak to talk about your feelings or to feel like if you're down or to communicate with others your feelings, but or to get help. Like that's another big
Hmm.
thing too, is to actually get help and talk about it. But I like to look at it from the opposite angle, whereas I think like now you'll see a lot of like mainstream or people advocating for men to be more emotional or
Yeah.
like men to be more yeah, emotional, like in the media or on TV or whatever it is, or just emotional in general. but I think that like the way it's framed can sometimes turn men off. Like you just say like you need to be more emotional. It's like, well, I don't want to be emotional. I want to be strong. I want to
Yeah.
be resilient. I want to be I want to have responsibility, right? So I like to frame it that it I think it takes strength to open up, and it takes strength to seek help, and it takes strength to say what's on your mind that's been bothering you for years and you didn't tell anybody, because that's what's actually hard.
Hmm.
And that's what actually takes strength, because if bottling it in is easy, you just push it down.
Yeah.
And then, like, firsthand, oftentimes maybe it leads to substances, or maybe it leads to workaholic,
Yeah.
uh, to being a workaholic, or any way it can come out, like, or your relationships are affected. Every single part of your life is affected, and it's going to be greatly diminished if you don't open up and let out what is inside of you, and um, seek help if you need it. And that's kind of the way I like to frame it, is just you need to be strong and brave to do that.
I think it's
Because if yeah,
I,
go ahead.
I think it's kind of like you could use almost a metaphor of like dealing with and working on your mental health is like climbing a hill. And like it's a hill that you have to climb. And I think, like you said, like it does take a lot of strength, and it you are a strong person climbing that hill rather than walking around the bottom of it.
Yeah,
Um, like if you,
hanging out at
you
the
know,
bottom and never going up.
exactly. And even if you take, you know, one step forward, one step back, you learned why you took that step back. And the next time you go up, you might take two steps forward, one step back.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good metaphor. I used to use that a
I
lot
love
when
metaphors.
big metaphor guy.
Yeah.
um I used to use that metaphor a lot when I was describing grief, like when I went through grief. It was like
Hmm.
and I mean, there's probably a lot of parallels to everything else,
Yeah.
and there is to life. There is to life, every aspect of life, where it's like you take one step forward, three steps back, two steps forward, one step back, five steps forward, one step back. Like, just constantly, with every new high, there's a new low. Every new low, there's a new high.
Hmm. It's yeah, it's definitely, and I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that better. And as I've gone through struggles, um, you kind of recognize that, and it's really hard sometimes to keep that in mind. Like it's extremely hard to stay diligent. Um, like I know myself, there's been plenty of times where I've just, you don't have it in you. But I think a lot of times that's maybe this thing in your head that's telling you you don't have it in you. But if you
Yeah.
try, you might get it and you might not, but you tried.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think oftentimes we talk ourselves out of it before we even step up to plate.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, another metaphor. Um, I guess one thing is that I have learned is, with the recent restrictions on COVID, like obviously I think we're allowed to, you're allowed to have a few people from different households, come visit you. Like I might be able to go see my parents, stuff like that. But for the most part, I do plan to just kind of stay at home. Um, but I'm a lot more prepared for it this time. A lot more
Yeah.
prepared. Yeah, big time. Just like it's like I find like an idle mind can cause me issues. So
Yeah.
I find if I've in my head if I've got like a list of things like play with the cat or listen to music, play music, sing, like build a puzzle, play guitar, or I think I said play guitar, play Xbox, exercise, cook, clean. I hate cleaning, but it's good because once I start, I get in this zone and I'm clean, and then by the end of it, I'm a little sweaty and happy, and I'm like, that was awesome. Why don't I do that more? But having that list of things, and I think a lot of people would benefit from this, is have more things to do than you can fit in your day. Um,
Yeah.
and don't overwork yourself. Like, I'm not saying like get 3 jobs, but just like have lots of activities left over at the end of the day that you could have done, but
Yeah.
you're busy enjoying other activities.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. Connor Murphy came on this podcast. I know you know
Hmm.
Connor. He
Yeah.
was like one of the first, I think he's like maybe third or fourth. But one big thing he said, and it plays true to the quarantine and stuff. But he was talking about a time where he was transitioning between school and work, as a lot of young people do. And he was saying, like, if you have nothing going on in a day, like you got to make your structure for the day. Like, if
Yeah.
you have nothing to do that day, you don't have work or anything. He's like, you got to make that day. He's like, sitting down and watching Netflix feels great on a Saturday when you haven't done anything all week. I mean, when you've worked your ass off all week
Yeah.
or been busy all week. But watching Netflix on a Monday afternoon or
Yeah.
a Saturday when you haven't done anything all week,
Yeah.
it feels like shit.
Or repeated, like, and it's kind of like reward. Like, there's a balance of work and reward. Like, if you work
Yeah.
for the reward, you're going to be way more satisfied with it than if you're just rewarding yourself, rewarding yourself, rewarding yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Um, Donnie Mitchell's was a really good one too.
Yeah.
I love some of his the buttermilk comment that brought back memories. Oh man, that was funny. Um, but yeah, it was interesting because I found myself like I only knew Donnie as kind of Coach Donnie, and when I played
Yeah.
with the senior men's over the winter, like training with them for the summer season, like I only knew him as kind of football Donnie. But it was really interesting, and it is really interesting to see people open up. Like, I think this is an amazing platform that you've set up and started, because I know myself, like I was nervous to come on here, and if I was the first person, I don't know if I would have been able to. But seeing everybody's different story, and that's why I wanted to share today, is that you don't always have the same story as someone else, but everybody has their story and everybody has their struggles. And I think it's way healthier to share those so that other people can relate, or you know not feel like they're alone in their issues. So I think it's definitely commendable what you've done here.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And that was kind of the idea that was like, in my young life, like even before like even in like high school, like I knew how common it was. Um, I knew how common mental health was. I've seen it over and over again in people I was around. So, um, yeah, I'm just thankful for you that you wanted to come on. Thankful for anybody that comes on, because just like you said, like the more people share, the more people can feel comfortable with what they're going through.
Yeah,
They're not the
and
only one.
I think this pretty much wraps it up for me, but I'd like to kind of end it with two things that each of my grandmother has taught me. um, One of them is, she used to my parents would leave early for work, so she'd come over and help me and my siblings get ready to go on the bus and stuff. And I hated mornings. And she'd open the curtains and I'd be like, oh, like, shut the curtains. Um, but she'd wake me up and she'd tell me, like, all the time, and she still does. Um, what can you do to make someone else's day better? What little thing can you do to make someone else's day better or make them feel better? And that's something that I still wake up every day and I think about, even if it's a little thing, smiling at somebody, holding the door for somebody, helping an old lady cross the street, something like that. Um, it makes someone else feel better and it makes you feel better. And it's really effective. And the other thing was from my other grandmother. And she one time told me, I think I was going through a bit of struggles, but she said, never think that today is so bad that tomorrow can't be better. And that one's definitely stuck with me on the hard days. It's helped me weather the storm.
Wow, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Some beautiful metaphors for both grandmas.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very blessed to have. I'm extremely lucky to have all four grandparents, still very involved in my life, and they've taught me so much, and my parents as well. But I'd never be the person that I was today or have learned kindness the way that I did without my family, and friends too. But my family's been one of the biggest teachers that I've ever had. I think one time my grandmother asked me why I wasn't religious, and I said, "Well, I've learned everything I need from you guys. Like, you guys have set me on the right path. Like,
Yeah,
I'm set."
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
I feel the same way about my family too.
yeah. It's family super important. Family and friends, they're there for you, and it's unconditional love. It's really important, and it's important to give that too.
100%. Well, I just want to say thanks so much for coming on, man. I'm gonna give you, I don't know when I can give this to you, but our sponsor is the Prince Edward Island Sea Salt Company. So I'm gonna give you this pack of salts here.
Oh,
It's got
that's
four
awesome,
different
man.
kind of sea salt.
Cool. I'll
So
use it
that's
for cooking.
yeah, um, pretty cool. So we got Prince Edward Island Sea Salt Company is our sponsor. Everyone go check them out. 40% of the proceeds go to mental health programming on PEI.
That's awesome.
But I just want to say thanks so much again for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's been great. Thank you.
All right, buddy.